Most people understand what an aircraft carrier does. They have seen the footage: jets thundering off catapults, aircraft trapping onto the deck in clouds of steam and spray, the sheer scale of steel and machinery that defines the most powerful warship ever built. But very few people understand what it is actually like to live on one. Over 5,000 men and women call a U.S. supercarrier home for months at a time. They eat, sleep, work, train, and serve in a floating city that never stops moving, never turns off its lights, and never truly sleeps. Today, Naval Air Dispatch takes you inside that world. Not the weapons, not the aircraft, the people, and the extraordinary, demanding, and often surprising reality of daily life aboard a U.S. Navy supercarrier. To understand life on a carrier, you first need to understand the scale of the environment these sailors inhabit. A Nimitz or Gerald R. Ford-class supercarrier stretches over 1,100 feet in length. It rises approximately 20 stories from keel to the top of its island superstructure. Below the flight deck, it contains over 4,000 individual compartments, connected by hundreds of miles of passageways, piping, wiring, and ventilation ducting. This is not a ship in the conventional sense. It is a city, compressed, organized, and engineered to sustain 5,000 human beings indefinitely at sea. The carrier has multiple galleys, mess halls, capable of producing over 18,000 meals per day. Sailors eat in shifts, around the clock, because the ship's operations never pause for mealtimes. There are barbershops, a ship's store stocking everything from uniforms to toiletries, a post office processing mail from home, a library, multiple gyms and fitness facilities, a television studio that broadcasts the ship's own internal channel, a chapel that hosts services for multiple faiths, and a medical complex staffed by doctors, nurses, dentists, and surgeons, capable of handling everything from routine illness to major trauma surgery. For most of the sailors aboard, this floating city becomes, for 6 to 9 months at a time, their entire world. Life on a carrier does not follow a 24-hour day. It follows a schedule dictated entirely by the ship's operational requirements, and those requirements do not stop for darkness, weekends, or holidays. Most sailors work on a rotating watch schedule. A common pattern is 6 hours on watch, followed by 12 hours off, though off rarely means rest. It means maintenance, training, inspections, drills, and then, if time permits, sleep. During flight operations, the pace intensifies dramatically. The flight deck operates around the clock during high-tempo periods, launching and recovering aircraft continuously, sometimes for 18 or 20 hours straight. For the sailors who work the flight deck, the men and women in their color-coded jerseys who handle the aircraft, man the catapults, and service the jets, these are physically brutal shifts. They work in extreme noise, jet blast, prop wash, and in all weather conditions. They wear cranials, padded helmets, and float coats at all times, because on the flight deck, the margin for error is zero. Sleep, when it comes, happens in berthing compartments, rooms shared by dozens of sailors, stacked in 3-tier bunks with a small personal locker that contains everything they own for the deployment. Privacy is minimal. Noise is constant. The ship never stops vibrating beneath them. And yet, the sailors who have served aboard these ships speak of it with a pride that is unmistakable. There is a bond formed in that environment that few other experiences in military service can replicate. One of the most surprising things about a carrier's crew is the sheer diversity of roles required to keep it functioning. Of the 5,000 personnel aboard, only a fraction are pilots or aviation personnel directly involved in flying aircraft. The vast majority perform roles that would be familiar in any large organization, with the added complexity of doing them in a warship at sea. There are machinists and engineers maintaining the nuclear reactors and propulsion systems deep in the ship's hull. Electricians keep thousands of circuits and systems functional. Information technology specialists managing the carrier's vast communications and computer networks. Intelligence analysts processing surveillance data from aircraft and satellites. Logistics specialists manage the thousands of tons of food, spare parts, fuel, and ordnance that the ship consumes. There are public affairs officers documenting the ship's operations. Many of the extraordinary images and videos that appear on DVIDs are captured by sailors whose primary job is photography and videography. There are legal officers, chaplains, counselors, and human resources personnel. The carrier is, in the most literal sense, a complete and self-sustaining organizational ecosystem, requiring every skill and specialty that a small city would need, compressed into a steel hull and sent to sea. A standard carrier deployment lasts between 6 and 9 months. During that time, the ship may visit ports in Japan, Bahrain, Spain, Italy, or elsewhere, brief windows of liberty that give sailors a chance to step off the ship, breathe fresh air, and reconnect with the world outside. But the port visits are rare. The majority of a deployment is spent at sea, in operating areas that can be thousands of miles from any coast. Communication with family has improved dramatically since the era of written letters and occasional phone calls. Today, sailors have access to email and limited internet connectivity, though bandwidth is shared across thousands of users and is nothing like what they would have at home. Video calls with spouses, children, and parents are possible, but not always reliable. Time zone differences mean that a conversation with family in the United States might happen at 2 in the morning ship time. Sailors make it work because the alternative is worse. The psychological demands of extended deployment are significant and taken seriously by the Navy. Chaplains and counselors are available around the clock. Peer support programs exist. The rhythm of work, demanding as it is, also provides structure and purpose that many sailors say helps them manage the distance from home. When the ship finally pulls into home port after months at sea, and the families waiting on the pier come into view, it is, by every account, one of the most emotionally powerful moments in military life. Every aircraft carrier develops its own culture, its own traditions, rituals, nicknames, and institutional pride that make it distinct from every other ship in the fleet. Sailors refer to their ship not as it, but as she. They know her hull number, her history, her battle honors. They can navigate her 4,000 compartments in the dark. They know which passageways to duck through to get from the hangar bay to the mess deck fastest. There are rituals that have been part of naval life for generations. Crossing the equator for the first time is marked by an initiation ceremony, the ancient seafaring tradition of shellback initiation, in which sailors who have previously crossed the equator welcome those who have not into the fraternity of those who have paid their dues to Neptune. Making ports in a foreign country for the first time. Standing watch on the flight deck as the sun rises over the open ocean. Landing on a carrier for the first time as a young naval aviator. These are experiences that mark a person permanently, that become part of who they are long after their service is over. The men and women who serve aboard these ships are not simply military personnel executing a job. They are participants in a living institution, one with roots stretching back to the earliest days of naval aviation, that continues to define American power and presence across the world's oceans. The aircraft carrier is easy to understand as a weapon. Its statistics are impressive. Its capabilities are extraordinary. Its strategic importance is undeniable. But the carrier is also something else, something that the footage and the specifications do not fully capture. It is a community, a home, a shared experience of hardship, purpose, camaraderie, and sacrifice, lived out by thousands of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, far from home, in service to something larger than themselves. That is, ultimately, what makes the U.S. Navy's carrier force what it is. Not the reactors, not the catapults, not the aircraft, the people. This has been Naval Air Dispatch, and this is Episode 5, the final chapter of our opening series on American carrier aviation and naval air power. If you have watched all 5 episodes, thank you. You now have a deeper understanding of this force than most people who have never served in it will ever have. Subscribe for what comes next, because we are only getting started. New dispatches every week.